Hello and welcome back to this video. And this time we're going to dive into a more advanced topic here because we want to enrich our data. So far we loaded data from data sources we have here available for us, right? So in this case our Excel files, or could be internal data sources you use like a SQL Server database or any other kind of database. However, what if you would like to add additional information to our data which is not available for us at our local data we have? We could extend our data using web data. And I already opened here a browser here, and let's take a look at it. And here we have additional information about the cities. Here we have cities for California, and we have the latest number for the population. On the other hand, if I take a look back at my data source here, I have also California as a state, I have the counties, and I have here my cities. And also if I scroll to the right here, I have a population number, which is this one here. Now we all know that population changes for cities because people move to cities and people move out of cities. And actually this population number which is here is not up to date anymore. So in order to enrich our data, we simply want to remove this and actually replace it with the latest data. So and that is why we can use this specific website for that and doing a web query, get this data into Power BI. Also, just in case you can't read it here, this world population review, let me actually show it to you. This is the specific link. So just in case you need this link, now pause the video and simply then you can copy this link and put it in your browser. What should happen is that if you enter this in your browser, you should get this website here. And this website has tables. It has this big table here, and also at the bottom it has another table, some related. And what Power BI does, actually it's this table here. This is actually also a table. You can also see this if you take a look at the HTML source code if you want, but it's not required. The main idea is the following. Power BI can scan websites for us and analyze what kind of data is there. And if there's a table structure, it can actually extract this data from the website and put it into Power BI itself, so into the query editor. So let's actually do that. Let's actually go to our query editor here, and we already know that if we want to add an additional source and web, so querying data from the web is also an additional source, we can go under new source here and tick simply web. If you click on web here, then what it asks you is simply what is the website. And here it needs to simply put the URL. In my case, I simply paste it because I already selected it, but it's the same as you've seen before, this world population review.com states, cities, California. Now the next step is simply click OK. And what happens now is that Power BI is now going to this website and trying to analyze the data on the website itself. We just need to wait a little bit and for the connection to happen, and then we see a pop-up window. And just a second, there it is. So it's again a navigator, so you should be familiar with this window, right? If you import a data source like Excel file, you also get the navigator. Now this navigator now has two tables. That means that Power BI has identified on the website we have seen two specific tables. Now which table should we choose? Well, we don't know, because we don't know what's in the table. So let's try and find out. So click on a specific table, like this one, the first one, and we can see, if you make this bigger, well, this actually looks like exactly the data we want. Los Angeles, the population, the census, the change, and the density. So if I take a look back at the file itself, this is actually, the website, you can see, there's a name, population, census, change, density. So this table now has actually been extracted from Power BI. So great. And by the way, there's also another table, which is the suggested one. So if you take this one here, and let's take a look, and this actually, Los Angeles and so on, and the column 2, Los Angeles, this actually refers to, I think, if I go back to this one here, to this one here. So this Power BI also recognized that this here could also be a table, and it tried to extract the data as well. But for us, what we want is we want to have this data here. And by the way, you can also see you can download this in a CSV or JSON file, which can also be done. So you can download it first and then import it to Power BI. That will also work. But why do that if we can simply get the data directly from the query here in the query editor? So I go back here and then I say I'd like to have my first table, this one. I can tick it and then I can click OK just to load the data. So click OK. And now what Power BI does here, it simply now extracts the data from the website for us. And here we go. That's it. Now we have the data from the table, from the website, imported here into Power Query Editor. What we can do now is simply using this table, which we have extracted, and merge it to the table from our location. Because what we are interested in is actually for each of our, in this case, cities, which are these ones here, which currently called name here. So we can actually go in here and call them cities, like that. And we want to merge this table, so basically join this table to the first one here, to this one, which also has a name here, which are also the cities. And then what we want is we want to have this specific column. The other ones we actually don't need. So what we could do is we can simply click on the first one, then I hold my shift key, click on this one, and then I simply right click here and say remove columns, because we don't need them. I also don't need a rank, so I right click on the rank and also say remove it. Actually, all we need here is this one and this one. So I can simply name this web query. I press enter. Okay. And then what I want is I want now to combine this web query here with my location. So what I do is I simply go to location and say I want to merge queries. And in this case, I don't say merge queries as new, because I simply want to stack the specific data to my originally location file here. So that's why I choose merge queries. But of course, if you want to create a separate table from those two, use merge tables as new. Could also be done. In this case, I say merge queries. I click on it. And then I have the option here, my first table. And then I simply need to specify my second one. I go in here and say my second table is actually my web query. I can tick it. And now I can see my location table up there. And I can see my web query down there. And all I need to do now is specify which are the two fields I want to merge the data on. And I have cities here, and I have names here. These are the two I want to actually join, right? Based on these fields I want to join. So I simply take the second one here, and you can see that now a window appears for the privacy levels. This always happens when you have web query. In this case, what I say, ignore privacy levels for now, because that's fine. I click on save, and the window is now gone. And now actually I can do my merging here. So you can see that if you choose cities here and names here, and then you can define the kind of join you want to do. So left order join, right order join, full order join, inner join, left and right. And also in parentheses, just in case you don't know what this does, it tells you exactly what it does. So the order join simply means keep all the data from, in this case, the left query, and keep only the matching data from the right, right? So if I now choose left order because I want to keep all my data from the location. Because what I notice, and this is also helpful here, take a look at the little option here, the selected matches 73 of 74 rows in the first table. So obviously there is one specific city which we can't find here into the 2020 in the web query itself. So this is something we have to live with, maybe manually adjust later on, but for now I think 73 of 74 hits is really good, actually. And also, if you have data which is not exactly spelled the right way, you can try out fuzzy matching, which is this option here. Could also be done. If I tick this one option here, then fuzzy matching gets applied, and then you can specify with similar thresholds and so on. So this could be helpful. I just want to mention it to you here. If, for instance, Los Angeles is here in capital letters, and here Los Angeles is in smaller letters, anything like that, or Los Angeles has a space here, and up there the space would be ignored. There would be no space. Then if you have slightly misspelled values in two tables and you want to join on them, then fuzzy matching here could be an option for you, and you can do that. For us now, that's not required because we actually hit all the values we want. So that's why we can now click OK. Click OK. And now you see next to the location table itself, you have now one new column in here. This is referring to the web query. The web query here has a table. And if you click on next to the table, click on one of the cells, you see that also you have a preview here, like Anaheim and 352,911, which is the number. If you take a look at the original number, which is this one here, is 350,742. So the number is slightly different, right? So this will be the new number, this is an older number. So we can simply use then this new column for us instead of having the old population column. Now, in order to get this data now, currently it's in the table, as you can see here. You can only see a preview if you click next to the table. You see a little preview at the bottom. Now, if you now want to have this table here, or the data itself, as in the column itself, in this column, then you click on the two arrows here on top. And then you can specify what columns of this table do you want to keep. The name as well as the population, so number, or only one of them. Now, because we have the name already, we don't need it. So we can untick the name. So we only get one column which contains the numerical values, right, for the population. And then what I also don't want is I don't want to use the original column as prefix. Otherwise, if you leave this checked, then your new column would not be named 2020 pop. It would be named webquery.2020 pop. And because I don't need the name webquery, I simply untick this. And then I click OK. And now what you see is you get now one new column, which contains of this 2020 pop, which contains here all the latest numbers here for our population. And now, instead of keeping this column here, I can simply right-click on this one and say I'd like to remove it. And now I click on this one, I double-click on it, and here I simply say population. Press enter, and now I have my new population column in here, right? Also, please go in here and say this is actually a whole number. So I also change the type here to whole number. Now, something weird happened, at least for me. Why do I see errors here? And why actually is now this almost 352,000 something 353? To answer that, I need to untick this applied step. And again, that's like to highlight this applied step. This is a really, really helpful window, because if you do something, a certain step, and the step does not create the result you want, simply untick what you have done. And now I can see the original data again. Now, for some of you, this probably won't happen, this issue. But for me, it happens because at my current location, a comma separator here, this does not transform correctly. So I need to replace this. And based on my current geographical setting, Power BI will not be able to specify that this is a number like 350,2,911. So the comma separator here for my thousand separator doesn't work for me. So there's a really, really powerful tool option I'd like to share with you here, which you can do if something like that happens for you. So whenever you have numerical data and you want to transform it, and this data then returns errors, like we have seen for me, for instance, you can go to ABC here, to the data type, and instead of using the default ones, like decimal number, fixed number, and so on, you also have the option to use this using local. This is really, really helpful, because here I can click on this, and then a new window appears, just a second, and this window allows me here to change the type. Here I like to change it from text to number, so it's a whole number for the population figure, but now I can specify the location. And here for Germany, as I'm located currently, this would return an error if I do it like that. But now if I choose local and choose United States here, if I search for English, United States, so I should actually scroll up, here English, and there's United States. And if I select this option here, that means that now I will transform this into the data type whole number, but I will use the US format for doing that. And if I click OK now and do the transformation step like that, just watch what happens with the column. If I click on it, now I can see those numbers, and the numbers are correctly now, right? I can see the 352,911, and I don't see any errors. So this is particularly helpful, this using local option here, if we go back in here. If you have numerical fields and you want to transform them, and they spit out errors, because simply your current location, Power BI for me, for instance, simply would not transform the data correctly because I have this dot and comma separator issue. So if that's the case, use this using local option. Really, really helpful. So that's it for that. And then, of course, one thing currently we have, one little issue here, you can see that there's one empty row, simply because, remember, we had 73 of 74 hits, so one issue was there that one file was missing. Then, of course, this is something we can investigate here further, which is the last one here in this case, if I scroll to the right. So obviously here for Ventura or Sun, where Ventura, there was actually no data available on the site. So that's why this is currently empty. So this is something we can dive deeper, of course, now, but this, for now, I leave it, but of course, this is something you can adjust then manually. But my point here really is that you can extend the data you have with additional data information from the web using those web queries, and simply let Power BI do all the work, so analyze the website and extract tables from this website. And then, of course, you can import this data and enrich your data source, okay? And that's what we've done here. Now, for the web query, the same as for the sales table, we don't need it, so I right-click on this and say I'd like to enable the enable load. So untick this one, and you can see it's also grayed out and also in italic letters. And finally, the last thing we need to do is, as soon as we are done with the data, so we have prepared our data, we have shaped it, we have enriched it with data from the web, then we can click on this close and apply option. And this close and apply option is the final step to load the pre-shaped, pre-formatted, pre-cleaned data from Power Query Editor into the model. Because right now, what we did was we only used the data here. Let me go to Power BI here. This one here. Our report currently does not contain the data yet. So you can also see under the field option here, there is no data inside. Only and only then, if we go back to the query editor where we have loaded the data, only if we click on close and apply, then all those changes get applied to the data source and we load the tables into Power BI. Only then. So if you click on close and apply now, what you see is that now all these changes get applied. You can see evaluated, loaded, and so on, and then all these tables appear in the model, as they have done for the easy way as well, if you remember. Just a second, because here it takes a little bit longer, of course, but now the data gets imported into Power BI, and then all these tables are available for us. And there they are, right? And you can see now on the right side here, you have customer, you have date, you have location, product, sales, and salespeople, and you do not see the sales 2019, 20, and 21, and you also don't see the work query itself, even though the data of the work query for the location here is available for us. Okay? And that's it actually for preparing the data and importing the data. In the next video, we dive deeper into the model view and set up the relationships for our model. So, can't wait to see you there.